Speed racing. Might as well. I'm walking through a ghost town. Y'all ain't playing my sounds. Don't tell me to calm down. Don't tell me to calm down. Only time I go backwards is when I wanna moonwalk. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. We are who we say that we are. Yeah, we're lost in the stars, and it's all from the start. Never running no pace, never on the right page, but we still read that book, and we still run that race. Ay, Mississippi racer riding out, no shortcuts, no time for that. Mississippi racer riding out till the wheels fall off. I'm driving that. Mississippi racer riding out, wheels stop burning, strike the match. Mississippi racer riding out, red light, green light, red light, good night. Ay, red light, green light, red light, good night. 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 Time to chill, don't sweat it.
Good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show brought to you by Wire to Wire Network. Thank you for making us part of your morning routine, whether you are joining us live on Facebook or YouTube right now. Maybe you're over there on Roku TV. Thank you to the fine folks over at Northeast Sports Productions. I am Chris, and of course, that over there, that is Mo. Mo, how are you this morning, sir?
It's Feel Good Wednesday, man. The NFL offseason is in full swing. The NBA sprint is on. This is one of those. This is almost one of my favorite times of the year. Like I still hold out that the best time of the year in sports is when you're right in the middle of postseason baseball. The NFL is kind of like finishing out. That to me is the peak of sports. But look, if you're a sports addict like myself and you, it's year round. We're getting it in.
We got a big show this morning, Mo. We got Will coming on to talk some NBA stuff in a little bit. We got the NFL GENEius himself later on the show to talk some NFL with us. But I want to open with this. So if you didn't know, one of the most iconic faces in all of professional wrestling, Sting, had his final match this past weekend at AEW Revolution. Sting has been building up to this for the better part of 6 months now, and he put on his final performance. He took his final bow in an AEW ring. We talked about this a little bit a few shows ago. We talked about the fact that WWE didn't offer any footage or anything. Circling back to that, by the way, AEW didn't ask. Tony Khan never actually made the ask to WWE. But that's not where the conversation is going this morning, Mo. Since Sting's final match, there's been a lot of criticism of AEW for one particular thing, and that was the glass spot that took place during the match. There were two of them. The first glass spot was when Sting himself was thrown through a pane of glass that was set up in the corner of the ring. And then the second glass spot, the big one, was Darby Allin from the top of the ladder through the glass, which was essentially set up like you would set up a table. And then obviously he shatters it. He absolutely destroys his back. He requires a ridiculous amount of stitches and medical attention after the show to put his back together.
That was crazy.
The first person, interestingly enough, to speak out against this was former WWE personality and in-ring performer Jonathan Coachman. The coach has a wrestling podcast now. He does a lot of stuff for golf and the Golf Network, but he has a wrestling podcast, and he went on there and basically said, you don't need to do this to get attention. You don't need to do these kind of spots. You don't need to allow your talent to put themselves in this kind of peril and this kind of jeopardy to get views, to get ratings, to get reactions, to tell a story. He went on to say that had Darby landed wrong on a chair, had a chair not been lined up perfectly, he could have killed himself. He could have paralyzed himself. He could have permanently injured himself. And Coach's stance was pretty much, for what? What were we trying to accomplish? What was the point of it? How did that tell the story? How did that get you to the finish line? So, Mo, before I offer my take, I'm going to let you go first. Obviously, it was a moment. Obviously, it's like a car crash. You can't not look. It is one of those types of deals. Was it too much? Was it necessary? Is it appropriate in the wrestling landscape of 2024?
I thought it was too much. I do think that you can entertain your fans. You can wow your fans with your storytelling and your performances and your performers in ring. I thought something like that, that's not just a gimmick. That's a gimmick that if it doesn't hit right, like you said, we're talking about paralysis. We're talking about a permanent injury. We're talking about life or death. I just think that I'm one of those fans that can remember, and even though it was an accident, the tragedy with Owen Hart. I'm one of those guys. And it felt like at the time they just tried to come up with more and more death-defying gimmicks to top themselves or their competition. And I get it. Those aerial things, those things from high up, they do have a wow factor, but those are people. Those objects they hit, they don't hurt. You hurt. I worry about that. I remember. Look, you and I both can count 10 matches that had Cactus Jack or Mankind in them that you would have thought, is he put together? Is he still alive? Like, he fell from 30 feet multiple times onto concrete, tables, tacks, you name it. And I'm in awe of that, but at the same time, there's a part of me that's like, at what cost down the road does it cost his body? Does he struggle to get out of bed or do basic things with his children because he did all this for the business? So I think that you can go too far in trying to entertain. You can go too far in trying to wow or one up your competition. You should let your writers, your storytelling, your in-ring talent be more than enough. That's my opinion.
The biggest, so again, there's a couple sides to this. There is the AEW versus WWE side. A lot of the AEW fans are taking this personally. They're thinking they're being attacked by anti-AEW fans or just bigger WWE fans. And the biggest comparison that is being made is what you just mentioned, and that is Mankind, Hell in a Cell, 1998. Obviously, Taker throws Mankind off the top of the cell. Fast forward later on in the match, and he is being put through the roof of the cell, and then thumbtacks are introduced later on. This is not the 90s anymore. It's not the 90s. Wrestling was different back in the 90s.
100%.
Turn on an episode of Raw and Nitro from 1998 and compare it to an episode of AEW and Raw today. It's not the same. They did a lot more. They got away with a lot more. TV was not the same 25 years ago. So when you're looking at what professional wrestling in the 90s was, it was sex, it was blood, it was shock. That's what they were. It was a ratings battle. That's what they were living off of. And they did it a lot with Mankind, by the way, because as much as there was a shock value, if you look back at the history of WWE, with the exception of maybe Shane McMahon, and not to ruin this for anyone, but if you look at what Shane has done, Shane does a lot of straight falls into areas below, right? That's Shane's thing. Shane will take the big fall and then he lands somewhere below and the camera cuts to him and there is Shane kind of knocked out in the exploded table area or whatever it was. That is not the same as jumping off a ladder through a pane of glass, which, by the way, Mo, was a real pane of glass. And when Tony Khan was asked after the show, why did we go real glass? Why didn't we go movies, right? Why didn't we trick it up a little bit for safety purposes? Tony was basically like, hey, that's the way we don't do that. We don't do those things around here. You don't do what things? You don't try to entertain while also protecting your people.
Right.
Because that's what that is. That's when Shane falls or jumps, 35 feet off the top of the Titantron onto Big Show below, or he takes the fall at SummerSlam from Steve Blackman. Let's not kid ourselves. He's falling into an area that's protected. Now, granted, it still probably hurts like hell, but he's not falling onto a concrete floor. He's falling into this pit that has something under it that gives some give. They structure it to protect him to the best of their abilities while not making it look completely fake. Yes, there is still risk involved. Yes, he still is falling free fall 30 plus feet from the top of a huge TV screen. But at the same time, he's not doing it and landing on a concrete floor. They are making it as safe as they can for him while understanding there is still a risk involved. Now, I'm not saying that, Darby Allin wanted it to be safe and they said no. I have no idea what those conversations were. But at the end of the day, Tony Khan, you're running a business. You're running a company. Nothing about this was safe. Nothing about this was safe. Best case scenario is kind of what happened. His back just got really messed up. But overall, he was basically okay. And maybe Darby Allin wanted this all along. Maybe this was all his idea, and he talked Tony Khan into it. Maybe Tony Khan
It's possible.
didn't want to do this, and he was like, "This isn't the best idea." And then he gives in to Darby. Maybe Darby got Sting to push for it. I have no idea. But what I do know is I know who runs the company. I know who signs off on everything, and I know who gave the final okay for this. Now, two more things, Mo, before I let you jump back in here. If you watch the video, and I am pretty confident there's a lawsuit coming here. There were two fans right in that corner of that ring barricade.
Oh, yeah. And when it splattered, yeah.
And there's already reports that the woman was injured. So I guarantee you there's a lawsuit coming because of this, because we couldn't put a security person there to back them up when you knew this was coming. Second point of contention, a couple weeks ago, and I don't really watch AEW, so if someone in the chat wants to give me a better take on this, and I can't even pronounce the guy's last name, so I'm just going to call him Sammy G. A couple weeks ago, Sammy G, I think it's Guevara, I could be wrong, was fighting Jeff Hardy in the ring, and Jeff Hardy clearly was concussed. He was clearly injured early in the match, and they let the match continue. Then Tony's going to turn around and suspend Sammy because he delivered his finishing move to a clearly injured Jeff Hardy, and that wasn't safe. So that wasn't safe, Mo.
Right. That's where you draw the line.
In the back, the entire world, I rewatched the match. The entire world knew Jeff Hardy was injured. Everybody who was watching that match knew something was wrong with Jeff Hardy. Now, and Sammy was talking to Jeff. If you watch the match closely, they're communicating. So I'm sure Sammy knows something is off with Jeff, but I'm sure Jeff is saying, no, I'm fine. We're good. Keep going. That's what wrestlers do. Mo, stop the damn match. Let the doctor take a look at Jeff Hardy for a minute, realize he has no freaking clue where he is,
right?
And then just either the match is over or we go to a quick finish and that's it. How many times in WWE do you just see the medical personnel come into the ring? It's not part of the storyline. They're just in there checking things out. How many times do you see the refs put the gloves on? Oh, there's blood here. We have medical procedures involved. Does it take away a little bit from the story or the aura? Sure. But at the same time, someone's injured. So we figure it out and we go from there. So you want to suspend Sammy because he was unsafe in a match where you felt he should have been safe. But then 2 weeks later, you're going to let Darby Allin jump through a pane of glass? It makes no sense to me, Mo. No sense to me at all.
No sense at all. And I'm glad you brought up the part about the fans that were really close by when I saw the glass shatter, and I thought, did that hit them? Did that? And it did. I wasn't sure at the time, but apparently it did. Like they did not anticipate that, and they should have. Look, if you're going to go high risk, then you got to go high safety, right? You have to do everything possible to make sure something like that can't happen. I'm one of those people that I'm big on the whole PSA that they do right before we watch a show. Don't try this at home. Don't do this, because some kid somewhere is going to be like, I'm going to jump off the roof, somersault through this little piece of glass. You know what I mean? Like, that's the scary part. Somebody will try to emulate that. I don't think we need these kind of gimmicks that put performers and people at risk. I understand the off the top rope stuff, and you want stuff that's outside the box, but like you said, the way Shane used to do it, the way others in the past used to do it, they rehearsed that, they scripted that so well, and that was done as safely as possible. Like you said, at the end of the day, is there going to be some pain involved? For sure. When you watch Mankind and he comes to the ring, he's padded up. You don't realize it, but he's padded up like a football player because he knows he's going to endure some pain. I just think safety first, rating second, but safety first.
And you call me a hypocrite. You can say that I'm team WWE. I don't put Mankind into those categories. I mean, there is stuff people want to point to extreme stuff WWE has done. Take Mankind out of it, and what are we really talking about, Shane? Because it was all Mick Foley.
Isn't
Mick
that
Foley
it?
did all the ridiculous thing. But honestly, think about it. If you take Mick Foley out of it, I think Shane's spots maybe. No, that was Shane. When Kurt belly to belly suplex Shane through the glass stage at King of the Ring, that was Shane McMahon. So if you take Mick Foley out of it, I think your next big spot taker in WWE is Shane. And once you get past that, there's not a lot of guys doing that. Why? Because most guys aren't saying, yeah, sign me up for that. And let's be honest, Vince wasn't allowing most guys to do crap like that, because Vince is sitting there saying, this one spot isn't worth me losing you for 6 months or 3 weeks or a year, because he's looking at money down the road.
Correct.
So we're going to get Will in here. And I know Will has a take on some WWE stuff, so we're going to let him sound off on this, and then we're going to jump into some of the basketball stuff. Before we get to that, though, this segment is brought to you by Sports Empire Network. Make sure you're checking out all of the great things happening over there at Sports Empire Network. Will, how are you this morning, sir?
How you guys doing this morning? Thank you for having me back on. I appreciate it, guys.
Well, we're happy that you're here. Before we jump into the basketball stuff, I know you were listening backstage. Where do you side on it? Was it too much by AEW? Is this just anti-AEW fans? Darby Allin, pane and glass, where do you sit on it?
It's way too much. It's way too much. You have to watch out for these athletes, man. Number one, these athletes are your moneymaker. That's the first thing. And number two, understand AEW is in a unique position. They're catching it from both sides, because you got WWE, who's number one, numero uno, so to speak. Impact is catching up. They're catching up quick. The difference between Impact and AEW, Impact doesn't have a TV deal. But if you go back and see what Impact Wrestling has done, they've been doing, they're slowly creeping up and catching up. So they're catching it on both sides. I have the privilege of podcasting with someone who's a huge AEW fan, and even he admits that Impact is starting to catch up. And that's why I think AEW is reacting the way that they're acting, is because they know they're somewhat in trouble. And I think it's wrong. And you brought up Mick Foley. Yeah, he wasn't. Everybody thought he was fat. Everybody thought he was just a big fat dude. No, he was padded up to the gills. He was padded up. He knew he was gonna go through some pain. He knew it. So I think it's just irresponsible of Tony Khan for what he did. To say what he said, we don't play that fake stuff around here. You should have played that fake stuff around here, because you have to look out for the person. That person down the line has to be able to live his life and get out of bed just like any other normal man. And you put him in that situation to where he couldn't. So I don't respect Tony Khan for what he did. And I think hotspots like this, they're outdated and a thing of the past.
Let's jump into some NBA stuff here, Will. The Phoenix Suns have come out and said that they are looking to add some depth to their bench, which is, I think, what every NBA team says about this time. That we would love to have a little depth. We need a little depth coming off the bench. What do the Phoenix Suns mean by that? Who are they eyeing? Who could fit the bill for depth?
Thing is, which way are you going? Because they don't have a legitimate point guard on that team. They don't have a defensive presence on that team. So which way are you going? I mean, have you seen the list of free agents that are out there? That thing's like trash. If you're looking for a point guard, what you gonna do? Bring back DJ Augustine at 36 years old? E. Smith? What you gonna do? Go get Montrezl Harrell? I mean, it's slim pickings out there. It's slim pickings. So it all depends on what they're looking for. They're looking for more of a point guard to help come off the bench. DJ Augustine's got a history of doing it. If you're looking for somebody who can give maybe a little bit of toughness, a little bit of rebounding, maybe Montrezl Harrell, maybe. I think that's the way they'll go. DeMarcus Cousins is out there. Ain't nobody looking at DeMarcus Cousins. So I just think that's probably the way that they will go. They got to get better on the defense. They can score all day long, but they can't stop anybody.
It's too late for that, though, isn't it? Like your roster and all the things they talked about doing during the offseason, like building chemistry, that's over with. Like Booker, Beal, and Durant, they've hardly played together because somebody's always getting hurt. And of your three best players, none of them play defense. Like I'll say this, KD's a good weak side defender. But in terms of individual defense, guarding somebody, none of them guys are locking up. And
not at all.
And if you look at their roster through and through, they've got a couple of guys that can defend, but that doesn't mean anything. Like what makes a good defense is everybody buys in. Even the guys that aren't good defenders, they at least compete and hold their part. Like, and that's not happening in Phoenix. So a lot of people are high on Phoenix. I'm not, because I know they can't get stops. And I don't trust that trio to be able to take them on a deep playoff run. I watched a game last night. They beat the Nuggets in an overtime game, and it's a big win for them. It's always a big win, obviously, when you beat the defending champs, right? But did that make me think going away, man, the Nuggets better not play the Suns in the series or they're done? No, it made me think if they play them in a series, the Nuggets are probably winning 5 games tops.
Yep. And the thing I think is so funny, and Gene mentioned it in the chat a minute ago. What's up, Gene? How you doing, brother? KD will run away again. And I agree. You know why? If you go back, look at Brooklyn. Same situation. Big three couldn't stay together. Phoenix Suns, big three can't stay together healthy. The same situation all over again. And it's going to lead to the same result. KD's going to run away again. Somehow, some way. Look about quick to get out of there.
He made a mistake. He'll never admit it. Maybe he will 5 years, 10 years from now. He'll go,
yep.
Should have never left Golden State. Yeah.
Should have never left Golden State.
Should have never left Golden State.
He called me the B word. I'm going to get mad. He going to call me the B word. I'm going to get mad and leave. Nah, I'm going to work this thing out and stay here and win another ring. That's what I wouldn't have left Golden State, man. Not over that. No,
not over that. Gentlemen, it was a week ago, Will. You sat here. I asked you straight ahead, and you crushed the souls of Milwaukee Bucks fans. And since then, and now nothing's changed because it's not postseason yet, but the Bucks have won 6 in a row.
Mm-hmm.
During this 6-game stretch, are you seeing? I'm gonna give you a chance to uncrush the souls a little bit. Have you seen anything during this 6-game stretch where you're like, okay, if they can do this in the postseason, maybe they can get a little further? Or is this just a situation of, Chris, it's regular season basketball. Look at who they're playing. This isn't going to translate to postseason basketball against consistently better talent. We're still in the same spot.
I'm going to say this. When it comes to the regular season, I have no issue with Doc Rivers. No issue when it comes to the regular season. He'll be there. The rah-rah will work during the regular season. But look at his past history. He's failed in the playoffs. Failed. With leads, he's failed. So I'm sorry, Milwaukee Bucks fans. I got to crush you again. They won't get past the second round.
No redemption here, Mo.
No, none.
Wow, Will. No olive branch or nothing, huh?
None.
Look,
because like I say, he's perfect. Doc is perfect. He's regular season guy. Perfect. He's fantastic. His history has proven it. But what his history has also proven is that he's not a very good playoff coach. And that's what Coach earns his bread and butter is in the playoffs. So I'm sorry, but I just don't think they're going to do it.
Well, if there's one thing that we love, it's a comeback story. And Isaiah Thomas is trying to make a comeback story happen. He is in the G League, and he is working on his NBA comeback. Where is this going to end up, Will? Are we going to see Isaiah Thomas come back to the NBA and do anything? Is it just going to be a nice little G League story? We're going to see some highlights, and that's the end of it. Where is this going to go?
I think it's going to be G League, and that's it. Unless a team is so desperate at the point guard position, I think it's going to be playoffs, and that's it. Because look, unless you have an injury, like Miami did, and Miami already solved that issue, I don't think he comes back. I think it's a nice little G League story, and that's going to be about it. I don't think Boston will even take him back.
Mo, you think IT is going to get some NBA time, or is it just G League?
He's not going to get any NBA time. And look, I was a big fan of his when he was at his peak with the Celtics, but let's factor in this. Even at his peak, he was a defensive liability.
Yep.
And now you're talking about him coming off all those injuries, and I have to assume he's got to be in his early 30s now. So he's not even the same athlete that he once was then. I don't see an NBA team giving him an opportunity. And look, it's sad because I know he's worked his tail off to try to get back, but the numbers and Father Time are against him. So it could be a G League story, or he and his agent could get together and he could go over in Europe, and I'm sure he could do well and make a lot of money playing overseas.
Gentlemen,
I just think in the league, he's similar to Dame, but he's a walking turnstile. For whatever he scores, he's gonna give up on the other end very quickly. So that's why I think he doesn't make it.
Gentlemen, we can't talk NBA unless we talk LeBron James. It's literally in my contract. If we're going to talk NBA, we need to talk either LeBron James or the Lakers. So we're going to do both, actually. We're going to start off with LeBron. Does LeBron deserve a Lakers statue? So let's go. I got to give you parameters here, okay? Because this was a debate. I walked into this debate like 2 days ago between Laker fans, and I'll tell you right now, this is like 30 people were involved in this, and it was pro statue. Now, let me give you the parameters. All right.
Okay.
Let's say he plays another 2 years in LA. They don't win another championship, but they make it to the playoffs this year and the next 2 years, and he does his individual stuff, but there's no more championships. Are the Lakers giving LeBron a statue, or should they give LeBron a statue?
No, because he's not an established Laker great. He's not a Kareem. He's not a Magic. He's not an established Laker great. And to think that this man deserves a Laker statue when all he was a bubble, he won a bubble ring? Hell no. Respect him all you want. Jersey in the rafters, maybe. But no statue, no.
Mo, you're a Laker fan. LeBron getting a statue in LA?
Well, I can't say whether he will or he won't. He shouldn't. Look, he shouldn't get one
compared to everybody else.
I'm just being real. So Jerry West, the logo, won one title, but he went to like 8 or 9 finals. He also won multiple MVPs. He also has a final MVP. LeBron he's won a title as a Laker. Obviously, he has a finals MVP. No regular season. Like there's not a long list of accolades he's done as a Laker. If they don't win another title during the LeBron James run, which looks likely, why would he get a statue? He might get a statue in Cleveland. He might get a statue in Miami, but he shouldn't get a statue in LA. Like, to me, I get it. Kareem, 5 titles, 3 MVPs, a finals MVP. Magic, 3 regular season MVPs, 3 postseason MVPs, 5 titles. Kobe, like, they've got major accolades to go along with their stay there. I don't think he's done enough. Like, his argument is that I signed off on all these statistical milestones as a Laker. That's what he can say. But the reality is, Chris, the majority of his career accumulating those numbers to get to those milestones. They weren't spent in LA. They were spent in Cleveland and Miami.
Yep.
I think he's an all-time great player, and he's going to get a statue, but he shouldn't get a statue outside crypto.
And it's crazy to me that people even think that he should get one. Again, he's not an established liquor great with any type of real track record compared to anyone else that's donned that uniform.
Look,
and
if
to
it's
me,
no, go ahead. Will. I was going to say,
go ahead. Do your thing. Go ahead.
I'm just real quick. I'm just going to say, if it's a debate between Laker fans, let me tell you right now, Kobe fans, they don't think it's a good idea.
I just think that, and again, I just think he didn't have any accolades outside of that title and that MVP to warrant that. I don't get it. I don't understand why these bronze sexuals feel the way that they do. A statue?
Listen, if you're giving LeBron a statue, you should give AD a statue too, because as far as I'm concerned, they've contributed the same amount.
Yes.
To the Los Angeles Lakers during this time period. So if Bron's getting one, if I'm AD, I'm like, can I get mine? Can I get my main? What's mine?
Let me get mine right after. Let me get mine right after.
Will, before you get out of here, we're going to keep it in the LeBron James family.
Okay.
Should Bronny come out in the draft?
No.
Will he come out in the draft?
If he keep listening to his daddy, he will, and that's a big mistake. Huge mistake. He's proven right now he's not ready. He's not ready. He needs to stay in school, get the college game down first, and if you can come out maybe his junior year, once he's established himself as a good college basketball player, I got you. But no, not right now. Don't listen to your daddy. Your daddy trying to be the VAR ball. Never lost. No. Don't listen to your daddy.
I like Will's way of thinking. Look, I still think he's not a finished product, and he's not a phenom like his dad. But that's not to say if he stays in college for another 2 years that he couldn't become a better NBA prospect. So
exactly.
I don't want to tell anybody Bronny James can't play at the next level. I'm just saying he's not ready right now, and that's okay. Everybody can't be Kobe Bryant or his father or Kevin Garnett. Like, everybody can't just come right out of high school ready to go. Bronny needs more time to develop, to improve. And remember, he did have a cardio issue. I don't know how much that has impacted him or slowed him or stunted him. So let's just give this young man some time.
Yeah.
Is LeBron's wish to play with Bronny going to speed up this process? Because LeBron's getting older.
If I was Bronny, I wouldn't let it because you are in control of your own career, not your dad. Your dad can advise, but at some point you have to step up as a man and say, "Look, no, I'm not where I need to be. I'm not to where I can be, where I can represent you well on the court. You're gonna have to wait." And every man has to step to his dad like that sometimes.
I think Chris brought up a great point. Will Bronny feel the pressure, though, because his dad only has so much time that his dad kind of pressures him and goes, well, I need you here now. You can get better under me, under my tutelage. I'll make you better. I'll improve you. Don't hesitate. So I think Bronny does feel a degree of pressure because it is his dad. It is his dad's biggest wish. He's made it no secret that he wants to play with his son. And what does LeBron have? Maybe another 2, maybe 3 years at a high level. Yep. But I think that he would like to speed up that pairing as soon as possible.
I just particularly a huge mistake because Bronny is not where he needs to be right now. That's really, as the chat's talking, that's really selfish. Really, to put your son in a bad position like that, and it doesn't serve anybody any good. And why would you think God would give him? Because God gave you above the rim talent, but that doesn't mean it's going to transfer to your son. Give him time, let him develop, find himself as a player. If it happens, it happens. But if it don't, it don't.
Correct.
Will, always a pleasure having you on here, sir. Thank you so much for being a part of the morning show this morning.
Thank you for having me, guys. I appreciate it. Everyone have a great day.
And Mo, we just said it, maybe it isn't the direct pressure that's coming from LeBron. Maybe it's the pressure that Bronny's feeling. because if he says, I want to stay in another year or two, he knows that he's putting off that. And we don't even know what that looks like. We don't even know, do the Lakers take him? Do the Lakers take him just so LeBron can play with him? Does another team, does he go in the draft and another team sees dollar signs and another team says, hey, if we get him, LeBron's going to find a way to get to us. So they take him knowing LeBron's going to come to them, and they're going to be like, listen, we will do whatever we got to do to get them to play together for a year or two. And then once LeBron retires, we'll figure it out afterwards.
Right. Chris, the Golden State already tried to see if the Lakers were interested in trading LeBron, and that didn't happen. But now you don't think the Warriors know, well, there's a back door to this. We'll just draft Bronny. You know what I'm saying? And LeBron will be like, yeah, Genie, I need to get traded. You know what I'm saying? Like, it'll be that simple.
And again, NBA owners like money. And I feel like if Bronny goes into the draft, they're going to see dollar signs because wherever he goes, they know LeBron wants to play with him.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know how it's going to play out. I think there's a lot of different emotional layers to this, but it'll be interesting to see it unfold. We got Gene, the NFL genius himself, coming up here. But before we get to Gene, I wanted to talk about this, and I'm sure Gene will have comments on this when he joins us in about a minute and a half. Obviously, Russell Wilson's been released from the Denver Broncos, Mo. And now it's the matching game. Where does Russ best fit? What team could be interested in him? Who has the best pieces that fit his skill set? Once again, no matter what you think about Russell Wilson, even if you hate the guy, the one thing he does is put himself in a good spot. And Russell Wilson has went to the people in the media that he is closest to, and he has allowed them to start spreading his gospel. And the gospel that Russell Wilson has allowed to be put out there is that he wants to play for a team with a history of winning. And if one of those teams becomes available, he will play at a bargain price. So Russell is putting out there, he's eliminating the one potential barrier, which is the money side of it. When you say Cousins wants 40 million, Baker wants 40 million, Russ wants 40 million, Russ immediately falls to the bottom of that pile because he has definitely fallen off since Seattle, even though his numbers weren't as horrible as people think they were in Denver. If you have two eyes and you watch him play football, you can see he's not the same player. So the one potential hurdle, if you're interested in Russ, if you're not interested in him, there's probably a lot of other hurdles happening right now. But if you're interested in Russ, the one potential hurdle is we can't give him 40 million. We can't give him 45 million. It's a lot of money to give Russell Wilson. But he's already putting it out there. Bargain for teams that have a history of winning. He wants to win, Mo. Now, I still don't think he's going to sign quickly. I still don't think it's going to come together at a rapid pace. I think we're going to have to get through the draft. I think we're going to have to see where Kirk Cousins goes.
And
Fields. And we're going to have to see where all these pieces fall. But he's lining himself up to potentially be in a good spot. And that's the one thing you can never take away from Russ is business, and he makes sure that he puts himself in the best spot for business. You can sit here and say, well, he didn't play great in Denver. Okay. I'm not going to sit here and argue with you. He had moments where he looked bad. Did he ever say a bad thing about Sean Payton? No. Did he ever argue with Sean Payton on the sidelines? No. Did he ever stop saying Broncos country, let's ride? No. He was a company man through and through. Even when things were falling apart around him and it was clear he wasn't coming back, Mo, he was a company man through and through. So Russ is setting himself up. It's just a question of, will other things line up for him?
I feel like he's basically saying, without saying it, I want to go to Pittsburgh, right? A history of winning. So you're either talking about Pittsburgh, even though it hasn't been recent, you might be talking about the Patriots too, right? That it's got to be one of those two teams where you want to go. And I think that he can do well in both situations. But I'll say this, the best version of Russell Wilson is when he is a complement to a run game. When he's a complement to a run game, he's a much better quarterback. So I think he has to also think in those terms too. Do I go somewhere where there's a running back who's a 12 or 1400 yard back that we can lean on, and then my play action pass ability escalates? I also think that, and maybe he doesn't want to go to Pittsburgh or New England because of the weather situation. Like, who knows? I mean, it's not the best weather, but I think those are the two better situations, because both of those teams, if they're not going to move up and draft a quarterback, or maybe they'll draft a quarterback and say, hey, Russ, you're our guy for this season because we're grooming him for our future. Atlanta could be attractive, but if I'm Atlanta, and I'm not taking a slight at Russ. What I'm saying is, signing Russell Wilson or Kirk Cousins to me for Atlanta, that's being very short-sighted. It's short-sighted. When you can get a player like Fields who can develop with Bijan Robinson and Pickett and all those other young talent, you get a Kirk Cousins and a Russell Wilson. Those are bridge quarterbacks. You're going to be looking for a quarterback in another year or two. That does not solve your problem. And if Russell Wilson goes to the Falcons, let's be realistic. Is he taking them to a Super Bowl? No, he's not. At best, he might get you into the playoffs. You need a quarterback that's going to be your quarterback for the future. And Russ is just he's a bridge quarterback, and that's the reality of it. So I don't think Atlanta's a realistic place for him. And maybe it works both ways, because he said a history of winning. Atlanta doesn't have a history of winning. They never won anything. So he's not going there by default. Somebody said Carolina. He's not going there because he didn't want to get the hell beat out of him. There's no reason to do that. Russ, hey, say what you want to say about Russell Wilson, Chris, and you pointed it out. Russ is smart, and he's going to make a smart choice. If he's going to sign for $1 million, it makes sense to go to Pittsburgh or maybe even the Patriots. I don't see him going to a team like the Panthers or a young team that's trying to come up. He wants to be on a team that's already a contender. And I don't think the Steelers are what you call Super Bowl contenders, but maybe with Russ, they can go on a deep playoff run.
At this time, let's welcome the NFL genius himself, Gene from Wire to Wire, into the show. Gene, how are you this morning, sir?
I'm phenomenal. How are you guys?
Doing well.
Gene, I'm going to open the floor here, and I'm going to, well, two things. One, I need to plug my laptop, and it's about to die. But while I'm doing that, I'm going to give you the floor to share your thoughts about a player who I think is near and dear to your fandom, and that, of course, is Jason Kelce. I'd love to hear your thoughts about him as a player, what he has done for your city, Philadelphia, and then, of course, his retirement speech or press conference that we just saw the other day.
So let's start here, right? I don't think there's a better player for the city of Philadelphia than what Jason Kelce was. Jason Kelce, to me, was every bit of what Philadelphia stands for. Lunch pail, blue collar, 6th round draft pick that came into the NFL as an underdog. He was counted out. His first year in the NFL, he was a 6th round draft pick. They told him he was too small, and guess what? Jason Kelce went on to become the starting center his first year. He worked with 2 ridiculously good offensive line coaches. He transitioned to center at Cincinnati. The guy is what Philadelphia is. Is he the best player to ever play for the Eagles? Probably not. It's probably Reggie White. It's probably Brian Dawkins. But he's the best example of what Philadelphia is. The guy was a consummate teammate. And the one thing I always remember about Jason, the thing that really kind of stands up, is no matter who the coach was, he had Jason's full support. When everybody hated Chip Kelly, Jason Kelce helped Chip Kelly out. When Doug Peterson was just getting here and everyone's like, Doug's not qualified, Jason Kelce was the one that helped him out. When Nick Sirianni's first year happened, Jason Kelce was the one that bought him that locker room. He was a teammate, and like you just listen to Emmanuel Acho talk about him. Emmanuel Acho was a rotational linebacker on the Eagles. Jason Kelce was an all-pro. He's hanging out with Connor Barr when they walk outside of a bar. Acho's like, I'm going to walk into the bar, and I'm not going to say anything to him. He's big time. I'm not. He's like, yo, Ach! Calls him over. He goes, you're always my teammate. Don't do that. And that's what he was. That's why he's so beloved in Philadelphia. He gave 150% every single time he got on the field. He didn't miss a game. Started every game. Love him. I love everything about Jason Kelce. I'm so happy for him, his family, and his wife is a godsend, man. That woman would not even wear a Chiefs jersey at the Super Bowl. And like Kelsey's like, you can wear it. It's for Travis. She goes, nah, I'll wear red to help you out, but that's all I'm doing.
I'll meet you like 20% of the way. So let's talk about this. Coach Prime making the headlines. I haven't talked about Coach Prime in a minute, but Coach Prime talking about one of his standout players, Travis Hunter. Gene, Coach Prime says Hunter should do what he does. And when he reaches the NFL, he should play both sides of the football. For me, as someone who covers the NFL and as you guys do as well, damn, that's a lot to ask of somebody, much less a rookie coming into the league to not only play both sides of the ball, but to learn both sides of the football. Obviously, you know, we see it here and there. We see every now and then in certain packages, they'll throw a receiver or a hands guy in the defense. But that's for specific situations, specific packages. That isn't, you know, middle of the game. We're trying to win this. You're part of our main defensive unit. Gene, is this just Coach Prime hyping up his boy and trying to, you know, get some talk back on him? Or do you honestly think he honestly believes that Travis Hunter could do this?
Well, what did Prime do? He was a corner. See, I think you're looking at it wrong when you say the offensive guy moving the defense. I think Travis Hunter is the best cornerback in the nation. So I would not have his primary position be wide receiver. I don't think he's better than any of the top receivers in the nation. I think he might be a top 10 receiver in the nation, but the best corner in the nation. And if I were a team drafting Travis Hunter, I would draft him as a corner and then use him as a 15 to 18 snap offensive player to add a third wide receiver or a fourth wide receiver. But that's what Prime did, right? When he went to Dallas, he was a corner and he played 10, 15 downs as a wide receiver. He was a gadget guy. He got on the field for 3-4 receptions in a game. That's what Travis, there's no way you can be an X or a Z receiver in the NFL and be the team's starting lockdown cornerback. Number one, you're going to get injured. You can't play that much football and not get injured. People get injured just playing one side of the ball. But number two, it's just a different level. And I think that while he could be a decent wide receiver, I think he would be, it's so funny, and this might be a slight, and I don't mean it that way. But as a wide receiver, he reminds me so much of Mohamed Sanu. But as a cornerback, I think he can be elite. I think he can be Richard Sherman. And a guy with great ball skills, Trevon Diggs. A guy with great ball skills on the defensive side of the ball is still very, very valuable. Yeah, the money from the wide receivers right now is much higher. But I think he should be a primary corner with the ability to play wide receiver.
Well, we talked about this a couple of months ago. It's circling back around now as cuts and tags are being made in the NFL. Trade talk is obviously going to come up as we head into the draft. And coming out of Buffalo, the talk once again is about their star wide receiver, Stefon Diggs, and whether or not Buffalo should move on from him via a trade. Mo, if you are Buffalo, do you think it's time to trade Stefon Diggs and kind of reset what the offensive weapons look like for Josh Allen? Or do you think that Diggs is a big part of this and he is going to be a big contributor moving forward and you're not going to get good value for him, so we're going to hang on to him?
I could see the argument why you would keep him, but I would say this, looking at the Bills, and we talk about championship windows, I think they're on the other side of their championship window, and he was a part of that. And I think when you're on the other side of that, you need to make changes. And I don't know if the headache of a Stefon Diggs going forward with them being on the other side to me is worth it. You still have one of the top quarterbacks in the league, so you're going to be a contender. I would argue that if you brought in another wide receiver who maybe not as talented, but was more of a chemistry guy, they might be a better overall team. I just think that when you're still trying to win championships, talent matters, but your locker room, your chemistry, I think that has an impact as well. So I would try to move off of him, but I think it's easier said than done.
Gene, they make the comparison of Stephon Diggs to A.J. Brown. They try to say that, they both talk a lot. They're both causing some issues in the locker room. But before you respond to this, my response to that would be, okay, fine, you can draw that comparison. But A.J. Brown is a consistent part of the Philadelphia Eagles offense and was throughout the entire season. Stephon Diggs, as they were working on Josh Allen and they were figuring out the run game and they were trying to limit Josh Allen's rushes and they were giving his rushes back, as all that was going on, it directly impacted Stephon Diggs. There were games where he caught one ball. There were games where he wasn't targeted until the fourth quarter. That never happened with A.J. Brown. He was fed, no matter what Philly was going through, we still fed A.J. Brown. He was still a big part of our offense. In Buffalo, it looks like, depending on what it is they're trying to do, there were times where Stephon wasn't a part of their offense. So doesn't that mean that losing him wouldn't necessarily be as big of a blow as some Buffalo Bill fans think it would be?
Well, it wouldn't be a big blow. I think Stephon Diggs needs counseling. Like, I'm not trying to be like funny when I say that. The guy's crazy. He did this in Minnesota. He's doing this now in Buffalo. It's not like it's against his MO to be this way. One of the biggest things about Stephon Diggs that hurts Buffalo is, as much as you guys say the Buffalo Bills window, Super Bowl windows closed, they're never going to admit that, right? So if you're going to replace or trade Stephon Diggs, who are you replacing him with? This free agent wide receiver class, now that Mike Evans is re-signed with Tampa Bay, is awful.
Yeah.
You know who the number 2 ranked wide receiver on this free agent class is? Darnell Mooney. After franchise tags and players sign, it's Calvin Ridley and Darnell Mooney. So if you're going to trade him, what are you getting back? And the question that Buffalo Bills fans can ask, if you had Calvin Ridley and you spent the money on Calvin and brought him in, how much of a downgrade is that from Stephon Diggs? Now, I think that they need to move on from him, and I think it sucks that you have to move on from him, but he's crazy. And that sucks. That sucks for Buffalo because they have a guy that could play with them if he just played football and bought into the culture and was that guy. But he doesn't. And that's where they're at. It's insanity to them. They have to make changes. And you can't have a guy that's crying on the sideline, begging for the ball and throwing temper tantrums. And by the way, you look at that playoff game, he had 11 targets. He caught 3 balls for 21 yards. They didn't not target him.
Correct. Is the draft a meaningful way, do you think, to replace Diggs? They move on from him. There's a lot of good receivers coming out in the draft. Obviously, some of the big names are going to go before Buffalo hits the board. But do you think it's possible Buffalo could make a swing at the 3rd or 4th best receiver in the draft?
Yeah, see, that's the thing, though. The top 3 receivers are going to go in the top 10, and Buffalo's not going to pick anywhere near there. Like, so you got Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Rome Odunze. Those 3 are going top 10, top 12 tops. Those are the only 3 guys that you can look at in this draft as comparable replacements for Stephon Diggs. Now, if you sign Ridley and you draft a guy a little bit down the line, like maybe the 5th or 6th best receiver in the class, that could be a comparable replacement, and you'll have less drama. Listen, we could say whatever we want about Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley wants to be in a winning situation, and he doesn't want drama anymore. After that whole thing, gambling on himself, you could tell he doesn't ever want to play for a losing team again. He quit on Atlanta, and that's not an attribute I look to sign and pay. I don't think Calvin Ridley has earned the contract, but he's going to get one because he's the only wide receiver in this class that has blue chip talent.
Gene, before we get you out of here, a bunch of people were tagged yesterday. We saw some cuts made. Seattle cut a couple of big names. What was your biggest takeaway from the moves that were made in the NFL yesterday? Either things that stood out to you, surprised you, caught you off guard. Give us one.
Well, I'm going to give you 2. You want to cut and you want to tag, and I'll give you both. J.C. Jackson being cut from How the Mighty Have Fallen. J.C. Jackson signed a huge contract just 2 seasons ago with the Los Angeles Chargers. New England traded back for him. They're like, buyer's remorse. Let's get this guy out of here, and they cut him. Gerard Mayo didn't want him in the locker room. J.C. Jackson is such a surprising cut because of how elite he was just 2.5 years ago. And then for franchise tags, you know what surprises me? You have a 24-year-old all-pro cornerback playing for your team, and you have $100 million in cap space. Will Chicago just pay Jalen Johnson? Like, what are you doing? That franchise just proves time and time again they're just anemic. They're not the sharpest organization in the bunch.
What's going on with Wire to Wire tonight, sir?
Well, I'm glad I have a minute because I want to give you guys one question. We're doing our characters bracket tonight. We're also doing top 10 second baseman in all baseball. But I wanted to introduce our play-in game. It's our only play-in game in the top 7. And I want to give both of you guys a vote. We go with that? Can I get the 7-seed play-in game? We did an early play-in game because we thought it was really important. Now, it's sports characters. It's your favorite sports character. A 1 seed in one bracket is Shooter McGavin. Doesn't have to be a good guy or a bad guy. The 7-seed play-in game, Tony D'Amato or Bud Kilmer?
Ooh.
Mo, I'll let you lead in this one.
Man, that's not even fair. I'm gonna go D'Amato.
Okay.
I'm going D'Amato.
Any given Sunday.
Yeah. Come on, man. That speech at the end. Come on, man.
Inches.
Yeah, the speech might be my deciding factor is the speech.
Come on.
We're doing the South tonight. The 1 seed in the South, we'll make you guys wait till 7 o'clock to see the rest of the bracket. But the 1 seed in the South is Mr. Bobby Boucher.
As it should be.
Yeah.
I'm going D'Amato too. The speech for me was going to put it
I'm
over.
counting your votes. We're going to do the vote tonight. So basically, we're going to need to sweep on Bud Kilmer for him to win. Your 2 votes count. It's the morning show's vote. We got Tony D'Amato.
Well, make sure you tune in tonight to Wire podcast. We need to see how it plays out. Our votes are in. Make sure you tune into the chat so you can get your opinions in there as well. Gene, a pleasure as always, sir. And we'll see you in the comments tonight.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Well, before we get out of here, let's talk a little bit of NBA. We're going to circle back there. So, Trae Young, polarizing young man. He did an interview with, I forget where he did the interview with, but it was all over the place yesterday. And the 2 biggest takeaways, and I liked the woman who interviewed him because she was pretty direct at times with Trae Young. And obviously, let's be honest, he probably knew going in what they were going to ask him, so he was okay with it. I don't think he was caught off guard by anything. But she asked him specifically about how he is viewed in the NBA. He's viewed as a selfish player. He's viewed as a narcissistic player. He is viewed as a me guy. And she asked him about that. You know, how do you feel about being viewed that way? Is that something you lean into or embrace? And he was pretty open. You know, he was pretty much like, you know, I don't like it. I'm not a huge fan of it. He kind of said that he understands why at times people view him that way. But it's not something he leans into. He doesn't want to be a villain, and he wants to be liked. He doesn't like the fact that he is hated by a lot of people or a lot of the fans. And I like that. I like that he was kind of open and he didn't just kind of brush it off and give the, I don't care what people say about me kind of, which we see a lot. We see a lot of, and it's okay to have that mindset. It's okay to have the mindset of say what you want to say, talk whatever you want to talk. I'm going to keep pushing forward because I'm okay with who I am and my people are okay with who I am. But I was okay with it that he was kind of like, you know, no, I don't love being hated. I would rather not be hated.
Sounds like he was being honest.
Right. And he's like, you know, yes, I do some things where I get it, but I don't want that. And I like that, Mo. I was okay with that.
So we both know that in sports, there are athletes, for whatever reason, you just naturally gravitate to. On the flip side, there are athletes that repel you, right? Repulse you. I don't know why I've never really liked him as a player because he's incredibly talented. He really is. But I always start out thinking when we talk about stars and how quick we are to anoint them is, can he win a title as your best player? And I don't think he can. That doesn't mean that he's not a good player. I think that Trae Young, as a compliment to a superstar or an elite level player, could help you win. And I get the selfish tag. He's putting up numbers. They're not winning. That could be the perception of him. And I'm on the outside like you are. I think in the end, he needs a change of scenery. That's what I think he needs. He needs a change of scenery.
Good show here, Mo. Close us out.
Thank you so much to everybody in the chat. Thank you for everybody that's checking Chris and I out live. Hey, when you guys get a chance, give us a like. We've already given us a listen, so I know you appreciate us. Follow, sub, check out all the great content that we have at the Wire to Wire Network. Check out Wire to Wire Network.
Hey, make sure you're back here tomorrow morning. We got JG on. We're going to discuss some spring training things in Major League Baseball. All of that and more. It's Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show powered by Wire to Wire Network. And